Mr. President.
Okay.
What's coming next for Cuba?
Well, we're going to see. It's a failing nation. You see that it's falling apart. They have no oil. They have no money. It's a failing nation. So I just can't tell you that. But we're there to help. We're there to help the families, the people. And again, a lot of those people are related to me in the sense that I've had such a great relationship with Cuban Americans.
This is War Map. The U.S. is seriously considering the possibility of launching strikes on Cuba, writes Politico. According to a senior American official and another informed source, Trump and his administration are becoming disillusioned with the campaign of pressure on Cuba, which is not yielding the desired results. In this regard, the U.S. is developing a plan of military actions, which could range from a single airstrike designed to intimidate local authorities to a full-scale ground invasion aimed at overthrowing the regime. It should be noted that in recent months, a media campaign to justify an invasion of Cuba has unfolded in the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that the island has become a haven for intelligence and military bases of U.S. opponents. The U.S. Department of Justice is preparing charges against former Cuban leader Raul Castro, and Axios writes that Cuba is allegedly purchasing Iranian drones for attacks on U.S. territory. Politico. Washington is considering a military scenario against Cuba amid the failure of the blockade. The Donald Trump administration has begun exploring options for direct military intervention in Cuba. According to sources from Politico, the White House has concluded that the strategy of harsh economic sanctions and a fuel blockade of the island has not yielded the desired results in forcing the authorities to implement reforms. The Cubans have proven to be much stronger than initially thought. Therefore, the issue of military action is now on the agenda like never before, says an insider familiar with the discussions in the administration. However, to conduct the third military campaign of the year against Cuban forces, the American military would at least need to concentrate a significant group of troops near Cuba, no less than during the Venezuelan operation. Currently, in the Caribbean basin, American reconnaissance aircraft are still deployed, including P-8A, RC-135, UAVs MQ-9A, and MQ-4C. Recently, reconnaissance near the Cuban coast using these aircraft has intensified. There is still no aircraft carrier strike group near the Caribbean basin, a key component of a potential operation. And of the ships near the island, there is only the frigate Freedom. The squadron of aircraft F-35 left Puerto Rico back in February, and now there are only drones in the region of the strike aviation. Of course, the Americans can always deploy bombers from the U.S. territory. But this is already in the case of an expansion of the scale of the operation. Judging by recent events, a ground option for the operation should not be ruled out. Against the backdrop of news about plans to capture Raul Castro according to the Venezuelan scenario, ground actions on the island no longer seem unlikely. The USA have charged Fidel Castro's 94-year-old brother, Raul, the former president of Cuba. An American aircraft carrier with a strike group has entered the Caribbean Sea amid threats to Cuba. The U.S. Southern Command reported on the deployment of the aircraft carrier group led by the USS Nimitz. This happened against the backdrop of accusations made by Washington against former Cuban leader Raul Castro. Earlier, Trump threatened that the U.S. might deploy the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln to the shores of Cuba. According to the Telegram channel Anna News, the charges against Castro may relate to the incident with the planes shot down over the Florida Straits in 1996, in which Americans were killed. Back then, 2 light aircraft of the organization Brothers to the Rescue, which opposes the Cuban government, flew over the island, scattering leaflets. The planes were shot down by Cuban MiG-29s. Later, the Cuban Air Force explained that the crews of the downed planes did not respond to radio warnings and refused to comply with the demand to land on the island. The U.S. Department of Justice initiated a criminal case against Raul Castro amid rumors in the American press about preparations for his kidnapping, similar to the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. This could be used to put pressure on the Cuban authorities. Currently, the island is under a blockade by the U.S. Navy, which is hindering energy supplies. Trump has repeatedly admitted that he will try to seize Cuba in the near future. How will an old case unleash the Pentagon's hands? The U.S. Department of Justice is ready today to file official charges against the 94-year-old former leader of Cuba, Raul Castro. It is expected that the indictment will be announced in Miami at a special press conference. We are talking about the events of 1996, when, on the orders of Havana, light aircraft of an American humanitarian organization were shot down. Although the investigation lasted for decades, it was only now that a representative of the Department of Justice confirmed that the charges will be approved soon. The prosecutor's office of the Southern District of Florida is also preparing cases against other high-ranking Cuban officials of that time. It is noteworthy that the Trump administration is not just suing. The U.S. is forming a legal base and looking for legal reasons for a possible military operation in Cuba. This is a signal to Havana that there may be the last chance to negotiate. The situation has reached a critical point. It's also worth noting that Cuba is not Iran. Due to its proximity to the United States, an operation does not require such a long preparatory work. The military potential of the island is not as serious as that of Tehran, so there will be no need to mobilize huge resources. Therefore, a military conflict could occur absolutely unexpectedly. However, the Cubans also have something to respond with. The authorities may take into account the experience of Venezuela and Iran. Apparently, certain conclusions have already been made, given the recent rumors about the purchase of 300 strike drones. It's worth remembering the developed network of tunnels and bunkers, which could create problems for the American landing force. Nevertheless, the combat capabilities of Cuba for a full-scale war are still small. Given the shortage of fuel, some military equipment may not be able to be deployed at all, and the air defense system is represented only by Soviet S-125 Pechora air defense missile systems. Most likely, a potential military operation by the U.S. Armed Forces against Cuba will have a targeted approach. But there are risks. The Americans now need to take into account the potential of Cuban UAVs, which could cause both military and political damage to the Americans. Until next time.